My name is Ntlatlapa Mosai. I'm an attorney. I've been working with MG Health, I think, for the past 3 years. And I guess I've been listening to everyone's speeches so far. The presentations make a lot of sense. And I've made a decision that perhaps I should try to provide a bit of context about the cannabis sector in Lesotho. The industry started 4 years back through the Drugs of Abuse Act. With this act, a number of companies were licensed. As the minister has indicated, we first started off by being licensed by the Ministry of Trade until government realized that actually this is a different industry altogether, and it is important that it should be regulated by the appropriate body, being the Ministry of Health. So with that, the Ministry of Health then realized that there is a need to actually provide a set of regulations that would make this industry conducive for investment. And the reason I'm emphasizing that conducive for investment is because the industry in Lesotho started very differently from other countries. Because when you look at the history of how the industry started in Germany and in Canada, you realize that it was driven by patients' movements, whereas in Lesotho it was driven by the investors. So it says government made a resolution to say the only way for us to improve our economy might be through medical cannabis. And the regulations as they are set up, they were set up in order to answer to the investors' needs. So most companies set up with an aim in mind of exporting outside Lesotho. So the emphasis has never really been on answering the medical needs of Lesotho patients. However, recently we have seen a few companies starting out introducing products that can be consumed in Lesotho. So in terms of the Drugs of Abuse Act and its regulations, we are not barred from producing products that can be consumed in Lesotho. So the only challenge that I would want to hint out there is that unfortunately in Lesotho, government seems to be operating in silos. I remember clearly when the regulations were being drafted, one of the key issues which the Honorable Minister had indicated was that seeing that most of the cultivation is indoor, there's really no need for arable land to be used for the industry. But that message is not, that message was not well received, I suppose, by the Ministry of Environment, in that it still issued an environmental impact assessment licenses, even to cultivators that were operating from land that can clearly be used for arable land. So in that manner, when you look at Lesotho as an economy, you realize that the growth of the cannabis industry has a risk as far as the agricultural industry is concerned. And that in itself results in the Ministry of Agri not feeling very comfortable about the introduction of the cannabis industry in Lesotho. But be that as it may, I don't want to dwell much on the challenges of the industry. I would rather want to move quickly to the opportunities. So as everyone has indicated, that MG Health was the first company in Africa to have EU GMP accreditation. That's a huge opportunity for us as a company, but also for Lesotho as a whole, because obviously producing cannabis in Lesotho and having EU GMP accreditation means you are a low-cost producer that is able to export into the EU market and annual returns that are euro-based. So that's an extremely huge advantage for us as a country. And because the licensing of cannabis in Lesotho, I would say, is vertically integrated in that if one has an operator license, you're sort of able to cultivate up to exporting. Whereas that's a very different, there's a different approach adopted by the Americans, as an example, where one can only have a license for cultivation and for exporting. They are sort of segmented, but there's an advantage in Lesotho in that you have an opportunity, if you have the appetite to doing so, to be able to move across all those spheres. So I think to conclude, I would say the only advantage that most countries perhaps do not enjoy is the relationship that the regulator and the operators have in Lesotho, in that the regulator has realized that we are entering into a new territory, and it is important for us to have clear inputs from the business as to how to shape up the industry. So that has led to Lesotho being able to move quickly into the industry. Hence, SMG Health, we were able to attain this kind of accreditation. If we were perhaps in a different jurisdiction, there would have been a lot of things which would have inhibited this. But fortunately, we were in Lesotho, and our regulator was very supportive. Thanks.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah, that's unique. Yeah. And I think what we should do is to have a follow-up meeting which is more private sector focused, and then we'll be able to give all of these companies more time to talk about, these very important issues. What we can do then is to move to Mr. Matekane, Vev Dynamics.